Hello and welcome to Lesson 2 of our book study of the novel Bud, Not Buddy. Today we'll be talking about figurative language and word choice. An important part of this book are Bud Caldwell's rules and things to having a funner life and making a better liar out of yourself. These rules are another way you get to know Bud throughout the novel. One purpose for Bud's rules are to have a funner life. Funner is not a real word, but it shows the reader that the narrator, Bud, is young and has very little formal education. Bud also has rules to be a better liar. Sometimes Bud finds he has to lie in order to survive difficult and challenging times in his life. You'll find out in the coming weeks that Bud has these rules to either help him survive or thrive. You might be asking yourself, what is the difference between survive and thrive? Well, survive means to remain alive or to stay alive. Looking both ways before crossing the street is a good rule to help you survive so you don't get hit by a car. Thrive means to grow, develop, and be successful. Find something you love to do in life and it will never feel like work is a good rule to have to help you thrive. You should add the words thrive and survive to your word catcher. So make sure you have that out in front of you. Go ahead and take Tracking Bud's Rules worksheet out of your ELA folder. Take out the book Bud Not Buddy and turn to page 18 in this book. Read the rule number 18. On your worksheet, Tracking Bud's Rules, fill in the first column with the rule number 18. Now, after you have read rule number 18, put this rule into your own words. In other words, what does it mean to you? Remember, you can pause this video at any time, and you should be thinking about that and putting down your answer on Tracking Bud's Rules in the second column. In the next column of Tracking Bud's Rules, you have to decide if Bud uses this rule to survive or to thrive. You can choose whichever one you like, survive or thrive, but you have to provide evidence to support your thinking. Your evidence should be a direct quote from the chapter and needs to include the page number where this information came from. Lastly, in the last column, you need to write down where you think Bud got this rule from and what this tells you about Bud. Well, here's an example. So on your Tracking Bud's Rules sheet, you need to write the rule. You can see number 118. And then the next column is Bud's rules to live by in your own words. Well, to me, it seems like he's saying when adults want to punish you, you need to give them something they think you love to take away. Or tell them that you hate something when you really don't, so they'll give you that as a punishment, and it's not really a punishment. So he's learned to do this with adults. I think this rule is for thriving. What evidence there is to support my thinking is that he says, please don't call the home, please don't send me back, when in reality, that's what he wants. He doesn't want to live with the Amoses anymore. He would rather go back to the home. I think this comes from his dealings with adults. That's where he came up with this rule, and it tells me he has learned to manipulate adults to kind of get what he wants. Now you have to read and analyze the other rule Bud has in this chapter. On page 11, you will find rule number 3. Analyze this rule like we analyzed rule number 118. Write the rule number, put the rule into your own words, decide if it's to thrive or survive, and provide evidence. Lastly, indicate where you think this rule came from and what it tells you about Bud. Hold on to this rule tracker until we have analyzed 4 rules, which will be after chapter 5. You will turn it in then. So put it in your ELA folder once you're done analyzing rule number 3 and 118, and hold on to it so we can come back to it later. Next, we're talking about figurative language. Figurative language is used a lot in the English language, and in most fiction writing you'll see examples of figurative language. Figurative language are words and phrases that don't literally mean what is being said. For example, when somebody says it's raining cats and dogs. Obviously, cats and dogs are not falling from the sky. That would be very awkward. It means that it's raining very hard. Figurative language includes things like similes, metaphors, personification, hyperbole, and many, many more examples. Tone is another aspect of figurative language. Tone is the feeling that the author is trying to make you feel about a character, setting, or event in a story. For example, an author might describe someone walking into the cold, dark woods while hearing unfamiliar noises all around her to make you feel scared. Add the word tone to your word catcher. Over the next few lessons, we'll be looking at Bud's language and how this affects the story since he is the main character. Open your Bud Not Buddy books to page 1. Take out the Lesson 2 worksheet titled Figurative Language in Bud Not Buddy. An example of figurative language on this page is all the kids watched the woman as she moved along the line, her high-heeled shoes sounding like little firecrackers going off on the wooden floor. How does Buddy describe the woman's walk in this example? Think about that for a minute. That's right. He compares her shoes to firecrackers going off. This example is a simile because it compares two things using the word like. Also, the word as indicates a simile, like her eyes were as blue as the sky. Go ahead and use the example I gave you to fill in the first box in the first column, example of figurative language from the text. Remember, it was the one about her shoes sounding like firecrackers. But what does this literally mean? Obviously, you can't walk around with firecrackers in your shoes. What do you think he means? Write your answer in the next column, which is what this means literally. Did you say something like her shoes were very loud when they hit the wooden floor as she walked? That's what Bud literally means with his figurative language. Now, what does this example show you about Bud? In other words, what is the tone? What does the author want you to feel about Bud? Write what this example shows you about Bud in the next column. What the figurative language tells me about Bud is that he sees this woman in a negative way. If firecrackers were going off next to you, you'd probably feel a bit scared. And Bud is scared of the lady that runs the orphanage. Her walk is not soft, but forceful and loud. You can change what you wrote down if you like, but do not lose this worksheet. Put it back into your ELA folder so we can revisit it and work more with figurative language in future chapters. Figurative language is just one way that authors affect the tone in a book. Another way authors affect tone is through character word choices. Open Bud Not Buddy to page 4. Read the last paragraph on page 4. It starts with "It's at 6 that grown folks." And read until the end of the paragraph on page 5. That ends "The first foster home I was in taught me that real quick." Think about what Bud is explaining in this paragraph. I think Bud is trying to explain that things seem to change for a person when they turn 6 years old. Now, focus in on the part of the excerpt that reads, "'Cause it's around 6 that grown folks stop giving you little swats and taps and jump clean up to giving you slugs that'll knock you right down." Think about the following questions. What do swat and tap mean? What is the meaning of the word slug? What is the difference between a swat and a slug? Well, the words swat and tap mean light hits, without the intention of really hurting the person, just to get your attention maybe. Slug, however, means a hard hit with the intention of hurting someone. The use of these words was deliberate. The author chose these words to affect the tone and meaning. How does the use of these words affect the tone? What does this show us, the reader, about Bud? The use of these 3 words affects the tone because it goes from a light feeling using the words tap and light to a more serious tone with the word slug. The meaning changes because the force of the hit changes with these words. The meaning also changes because Bud's mom died when he was 6, and she would have been the one to tap and swat him. Strangers and foster parents were the ones to slug him. In your ELA folder, you will find a worksheet titled Selected Response Question, Word Choice in Chapter 2. There are 3 multiple choice questions and 1 short answer question to complete. Remember to put your name on it and turn it in when you bring it back to school. That is it for today for word choice and tone. Again, feel free to contact me if you ever have any questions or problems that you come into contact with. Thank you very much for watching. Have a great day.